Well, for the 28th year, the faculty of the MSU College of Communication Arts and Sciences, well, they've been ranking ads during the Super Bowl. And joining us again for the Super Bowl postseason visit is Robert Kolt, Professor of Practice Emeritus in the MSU Department of Advertising and Public Relations, and the creator of this Ad Watch tradition. And Robert, thanks for joining us again. And I guess I just open up the questioning by asking you how you think this group of ads stacked up.
It was a good year for advertising. It was a better year for the ads than the game. We had a lot of fun and funny stuff. There were some serious ads, too, that made some good points and penetrated. But look, if you were like half the audience in America, and I understood the latest rating from Nielsen was 126 million people watching the game. Half that audience is watching for the ads because most people don't care about Philadelphia or Kansas City. In the rest of the world, there are some people who say, like my wife, Patrick Mahomes is cute. Okay, well, it doesn't mean anything about football. People are looking at the game for different things, and they know that the advertising in the game is the best advertising of the year. So we had a good night. The problem is the audience didn't stay around to the end of the game.
And that is a fascinating part and a byproduct, right, of a product that really was kind of lopsided from the get-go of the Super Bowl. And Will and I will get to some of our personal favorites and opinions from the Super Bowl ads. But, Robert, why don't you hit us with the focus group study, the board's evaluation of the top ads from this Super Bowl LIX?
Well, the Michigan State University professors in advertising and public relations have rated the Super Bowl ads for 28 years. And this year we picked the Michelob Ultra ad, which was the pickleball hustle. And William Defoe, Catherine O'Hara, it's really funny. I've never played pickleball. Maybe you guys have. But it was just, the beer guys do great stuff. Mountain Dew did the artist Seal as a seal, which was great animation, and we loved it. WeatherTech did some crazy granny stuff. Then we had a really good Google Pixel ad, and then Novartis, the drug company, focused on breast cancer awareness, and the ad was called "Your Attention, Please," and they literally showed women's chests for a couple of minutes, but then delivered a good hard message. It was a great year. We had Rocket Mortgage, Hellman's Mayo, Nike, Stella Artois, and Bud Light. All the beers do well. So those were our top ads in the game.
Well, what my top ad was, you ready? The one I really liked a lot. I really loved the Jeep owner manual. I really did.
Now, what is it that you loved about it?
Well, number one, I loved the message, okay? And I thought it was clever, especially at the end when Harrison Ford announced that he was a Ford, not a Jeep, even though he loved his Jeep. And I just really thought it was clever, and they had a message, but they, Jeep got their mention, and there was some humor in it. And I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was very clever.
Well, so Will, you identified which could be the only iconic ad in the game. I think people will remember that for a long time. They had a big-time director. You got a big star celebrity to be in the ad. You feature the product. There's a really good message. Here's the tough thing. They're paying $8 million for 30 seconds, and that was a 2-minute spot. So that ad went on for a long time, and Jeep paid a lot of money. And then it aired at a time that was late in the game when the audience was dropping off. So I kind of feel bad for Stellantis putting up, the Jeep ad, making great commercials. Maybe we'll see it again in the future. Maybe they'll edit it down to 30 seconds.
Well, and while we're doing personal picks, one that I enjoyed that didn't get quite the accredited score from the group here from Michigan State was the Uber Eats ad starring Matthew McConaughey. I thought the writing on that was really creative, incorporating all the ways football has been imaging to us subliminally about food throughout time, and Matthew McConaughey kind of representing all the different eras. Why didn't that maybe factor as well for the group?
Well, it did. I mean, we rated that pretty high. I mean, it was in the top 20. I think it was number 16. The thing is, if you're in the top 20, you've scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl because these are the best ads in the advertising industry every year. And that Matthew McConaughey ad with Kevin Bacon, right? It was funny. It was cute. And he does his sing-song, poetic kind of message. I don't know. I thought it was a great ad. Last year, Uber Eats had the best ad according to our ratings. And it wasn't anything wrong with this ad. It was just that there was so much good competition.
One of the things I came walking away with, and I really was curious to ask you, there have been a couple of times in the days following the Super Bowl where I was thinking back to the commercial of the facial features. There was the Pringles with the mustache that was ripped off Nick Offerman's face and off of Andy Reid's face and James Harden's beard. But then also Little Caesars had a similar idea with Eugene Levy's eyebrows. And they both ended up getting animated and moved away. And in the days since, I've ended up blending those two commercials and products together. Is that a real harm that sometimes you just coincidentally walk into?
Well, you do want to make a memorable, understandable ad that people get long after the game. So here's the thing. If those ads are recut or replayed long after the game, then they're going to have a much better effect. I fear that the Harrison Ford Jeep ad may only air one time, and we never see it again. And so, and there were some controversial stuff. I mean, again, we have the racism ad. We have the anti-Semitism, kind of the same thing. Nike had a great, well-produced spot. What a terrific ad that was. And, I sit back. The David ad, which was David Beckham and
Matt Damon.
Matthew Damon. That's right, Matt Damon. They do this great little shtick. It was a terrific beer ad, but again, it kind of aired at the end of the game. So I hope we see it again because I'm not sure as many people not necessarily saw it when it aired.
Let me ask you this. We talked about the modest amount of money to buy an ad, $8 million for 30 seconds. Is there like a sliding rate card where, in theory, if it's a great game, right, everybody's dialed into it, do you pay more or less for where you're placed?
Yes, you do pay more or less for where you're placed. But it is a gamble, too, Will, because it's sort of like, the lottery. If you want that final 2-minute break, we're going to be back for the conclusion of our game in just a moment. And it's a great game. It's coming down to the wire. That final 2-minute break is like winning the lottery jackpot. Everybody's watching. They're excited. But not this game. The people were kind of tuned out. And the advertisers invested a lot of money in that final 2-minute break. So do they get a refund? No, they don't. It's kind of the roll of the dice that you take when you invest in advertising this in the big league Super Bowl.
Well, it's fascinating when you kind of break it down that way. And Robert, I kind of want to go over this again. We talked about it last year, but when you start talking about the price tag, as you mentioned a little bit ago, that it was $8 million for 30 seconds for some companies in some spots, the amount of return, this is an investment worth making for these businesses. It seems crazy when you throw out $8 million, but I was curious if you could walk us through the math of why this is so beneficial for these companies.
Well, so there's real research that shows that sales turn around for a product that gets exposed to the Super Bowl. I mean, the companies wouldn't do it if they didn't see a real rate of return on investment. In fact, usually for a car ad, you'd think a car ad, there would be someone would think about it maybe for a year or something. It's not like a pop or a beer or chips. You go out and you pick up that brand the next day. So you see Chrysler did a Made in Detroit M&M ad years ago, and driving through the city, it was really tough. Ended at Fox Theater, M&M singing. Well, the CEO of Chrysler said, I couldn't believe that ad generated an unexpected $400 million in sales in the quarter. He said, I mean, he was Italian. He said, well, if I would have known it would have paid off that much, I would have featured a better car. So I don't know. Does it work? Yes, it works. 20, 30 years ago, advertisers were paying $100,000 for a nationwide ad. $8 million, yeah, that's a lot of money. You make a lot of decisions about an $8 million ad.
Where did this thing take off? I mean, you talk about money well spent, the viewership, and all of these things we've been discussing. But at some point, what triggered this to become the major holiday it is?
I think it was triggered when football agreed to let this be an event and a show. And they spiced up the halftime show. They started a 6-hour pregame show. They had a big post-game afterward presentation. And, it wasn't football anymore. It was a show. And so when football was able to, kind of give up that creative control of the reins, advertisers said, okay, let's really get into this. Now, I will tell you that in the history of television, the last 30 highest rated programs, 29 of them have been Super Bowls. And so people across all demographics, old, young, men, women, they're all watching. It's a holiday. People have suggested the day after the Super Bowl should be a holiday. Well, look at it. It has changed. It has evolved. It's a uniquely American tradition.
Well, as long as some eyebrows don't go flying by my car, I'm good.
Well, take care. We're neighbors, Will, so be careful. I'll be looking for you driving down, ducking from those eyebrows.
I got you, Robert. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, fellas.